Good morning and welcome to the USA Cares podcast. I'm your host, Matt Castor. I am joined as always with Alexis Becker. Good morning, Alexis.
Good morning, Matt.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Another week.
Yes.
Always surprised we're still on.
I know. They haven't kicked us off yet.
They haven't kicked us out. It's coming one day, but it's all right. Again, another exciting before the episode conversation, and we're going to pretend like nothing happened.
Always very lively.
Always very lively.
We need to start cutting the pieces of those in, or do a
Yeah.
blooper reel at the end.
We could do a blooper reel. Except then they're going to see the real me, and then that's going to be scary.
Well, that's just going to ruin the whole persona.
Yeah. Try to fake it like I've got it all put together, but reality is it's not always pretty. So, but welcome back. We are excited about all the stuff happening in the world of USA Cares and the world of veterans. If you are new to the USA Cares podcast, we're excited you're joining us. This is a podcast all about veterans, not a veterans about podcast. It's a podcast about veterans, about supporting our veterans, about being here when they need us. And we hope to give a little hope and a little inspiration. And I hope you'll tune in each week. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Make this part of your weekly routine. It is not perfect, but it's informative. We have a lot of fun guests on, a lot of people who share their stories. And I hope you like it. So reach out, Matt, at usacares.org. Give us your feedback. Let us know what you think. Or if you want to go ahead and put a rating or a review on, is it Apple Podcasts or which one?
Apple Podcast.
Or is it Spotify?
Apple.
So go on Apple Podcasts and go ahead and leave a review. Somebody left us a review and it was nice. So more of those would be great.
5 whole stars.
We have 5 stars. Yep. I've hit that 5-star button, I think 10 times. I don't think it's taking them anymore, but.
Well, no.
Probably not.
You get 1.
I'm going to try. So a couple people I want to mention, or Alexis, why don't you mention what Carl's Jr. is doing on the West Coast?
So Carl's Jr. is graciously doing one of those roundup campaigns where you're going through the drive-through, unless their dining room's open, and they ask you, do you want to round up for military families? And you say yes, and then
please say yes.
Yeah, well, no, you have no choice. You say yes.
Well, they do have a choice.
Because you want to help military families.
Right, I see where you're going with this. Yeah.
Thanks. So participating in Carl's Jr.'s restaurants on the West Coast, Roundup for Military Families. It's running through the end of February. There are 28 days this year in February.
Your change could bring on change.
Yep.
See what I did there?
I see what you did.
Yeah, so that's pretty good.
Welcome to the marketing department.
Yes, exactly. Welcome to marketing. So, a little bit goes a long way. Make sure you go ahead and round up. Make sure that when you go out to eat or you go and you buy stuff at a store, make sure you know where that money's going. Make sure that company is doing something that's responsible and contributing to the community. And what Hardee's and Carl's Jr. is doing is really spectacular. And we're just honored to be partners with them. Somebody else I want to mention, because he's a good friend of the podcast, is Cruz Customs Flags.
Yes.
And our buddy Chris Cruz was recently recognized by Senator Rand Paul for his efforts with his small business. So congratulations to Cruz Customs Flags. Another really good friend, and we're just excited to see good people doing well.
Yep. We love seeing our supporters and people who love us doing big things.
Absolutely. Renewal by Anderson, another good partner of ours. They've gone out of their way to, it's like one of those companies that we don't even necessarily have to ask them to help. They're just like, what can we do? Yep. So awesome. GE Appliances, can't say enough good things about them. They work with us for their Senior Leaders Program. And we've been able to place some veterans with GE Appliances, and it's just a really good program. Yeah. And they get the needs of veterans, and they always want to help. So, some really good stuff.
Good job.
Thanks. All right, so a little bit different episode today. So this is, I think, is this our first follow-up episode?
It is.
So we'll see how this goes. I think it'll be good. We did an episode a while back. Marla, when was this? This was in November?
I think so.
Yeah. Is that when we had you on last time? So Marla Kiser joined us for an episode called Invisible Wounds back, and I think it was November. And it got like more of a response than we've ever had
It
to an
was
episode.
by far our most listened to, most popular episode in the history of our podcast.
And I think it's that rawness, that real element to it, because Marla, you were so open and honest with us about your life and your experiences. And so Marla Kiser's joining us for part 2 as a
Yes.
follow-up.
Yes.
And, I think it's great. And you've become part of our USA Cares family, and we're pulling you into events. And I got to meet your family here recently.
Yep.
So I'm excited to have you back on.
Well, thank you. See, I'm very excited to be back on as well. And after the episode airs, it was absolutely crazy. See the responses that I got back from people that I haven't talked to in years, and those that I talk to regularly that just kind of opened up and basically gave me their truths and their vulnerabilities and was able to relate to me, veteran, non-veteran. Just it didn't matter. People were able to relate to the things that I said, and that was really just unreal for me.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yes.
And there's nothing better, I don't think, in my life when there's been something that I've been really sensitive about, or something that I've tried to hide or conceal. That's something that I would never want anybody to know. And then you hear somebody else say the same thing, and like say, this is something I struggle with, and you're like,
I'm
wow,
not
I'm not the only one.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you did that for a lot of people.
And it was terrifying, but I can say it was so freeing. It's definitely helped me just specifically, after that, it's allowed me to speak my truths a little bit easier, because people, understand where I'm coming from, and they've heard some of my deepest and darkest, and they saw how I was able to come out of it.
So let's back up for somebody who maybe is listening who didn't listen to this episode yet, which hopefully they'll go back and listen to it.
Hopefully they will.
But give us a short version of kind of what we talked about in that last episode.
We talked about my time in service. Obviously, that was a
U.S. Army.
U.S. Army. Yeah, that was a very important piece of my life that definitely catapulted me into who I became and I am today. And all the struggles that I went through, and being injured, and having to fight tooth and nail for people to hear me, to listen to, I'm like, I know my body, I knew something was wrong, and then getting out and just pretending like it's all okay, because me as a person, like I don't like not knowing things. I don't like not being able to do things. I'm, to put it eloquently, I'm as stubborn as a mule.
No.
Right? Yeah.
The girl that wouldn't ask the VA for help for 9 years was,
Well,
slightly
and
stubborn.
The whole way you got into the Army to begin with was, I bet you won't. I bet you I will.
Yeah. Essentially, I joined the Army on essentially a dare. They,
You
just
won't
in
join
spite.
the Army.
You
So
can't do this.
just to summarize, your boyfriend told you that you wouldn't join the Army, so you did. And then you went through basic. You got injured in basic, right? And dealt with that for a long time.
Yep.
You were saying that you were hurt, but not everybody believed you, but you powered through it.
Yep.
And then you get to the point, I think it was 3 years you were in?
Right about 2.
2? Okay. Yep. And then you come out and had some guilt, had some other things that you wrestled with, right?
Some is a very, it's not the right word to say. I had an unwavering amount of guilt, and that was difficult in and of itself. And there was a lot of, burying the head in the sand. And, it's why it took me 9 years to finally, ask the VA, like, I think there's something going on, maybe, not sure.
Yeah.
That whole, like, it's okay if you can't. No, I don't want to bother you. It's fine. I can handle it. Yeah, it's that whole, like, conversation that you have where you're like, no, it's fine. Like, you talk yourself out of needing something. And
Yeah.
I did that for a long time.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I get help, and I'm like, whoa, this is what normal's supposed to feel like.
Why didn't I do this sooner?
Yeah.
Right. Normal's a relative term, but there's
right.
still, when I say normal, I mean somebody who's able to function. You get up every day and you're able to, talk to different people and go to work and go home and
just to walk around without that burden.
Yeah.
That's what gets me, and I think we've all experienced that at some point in our lives where you're carrying something like, I wish I could just let go of this, and talking it out is so therapeutic.
That's why therapy is so great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I know most people are like, God, I don't want to talk to a stranger. But what I can say is sometimes talking to somebody who has no idea what you have gone through in life, they don't have any past experiences to weigh on, they weren't there for it. Because talking to friends is great, but there's always that just added something with a friend that's never there with a therapist. And that's what I've enjoyed to say. It's, it's definitely helpful. And I know that I've seen some significant change, and something that, I have been personally working on in therapy that I didn't realize was even a thing is something called self-compassion.
I like that word.
We'll dive into that for a moment.
Yeah. So
I'm going to write that one down.
Yeah.
It's like give yourself a little bit of grace.
That is exactly what it is. To say, I offer other people this, grace at, somebody just hit you. Well, you're allowed to be mad. You're allowed to be extremely upset, or you messed up on your test. It's okay. You'll do better next time. Well, why can't we offer ourselves that same thing? Yep. Like, oh, you did this wrong. Well, that's okay. You're human. You're not perfect. You can't do everything right all the time. And that, that concept of self-compassion helps. It's starting to help me be aware more so of when my brain starts telling me that I'm worthless. I can't do this. Why are you so stupid? Why can't you just seem to get this together? You're stronger than this. You're supposed to be able to hold everything together. Conversations that generally pretty much run on repeat in my head. That concept of self-compassion gives me the tools to be like, look, Marla, you're human. You can't be perfect all the time. It's never going to happen. As much as you want it to be, it's not possible. Yep. And it's, it helps me be more compassionate just to others as well, because the more I'm compassionate with myself, the more I'm able to be like, okay, well, if I can give myself grace, then I can give anyone else the same amount of grace to experience and navigate and flow through the different emotions that come along with, feeling anything as a human being.
Yeah.
And she started me on a workbook, and that's it's interesting. It's like, I don't know that I've ever really done homework like that before. Most of all my soul searching is basically done when I'm like dark and low and miserable and terrible. And I'm like, well, the only way to get out of this is through it. So do the work and get through it.
What did they think? Is he or she?
It's a she.
She. What did she think about you doing this podcast?
That's what she say. She was like, how did you feel? And I was like, it was really exhilarating. It was really powerful. I don't know. I felt like I took power back over some of the things that I've let control me. And that was huge.
Yeah.
As far as, like just not, setting my boundaries, saying, no, I can't do that. It's not happening.
Well, and what's really interesting to me, so backing up just even more, how you and I met was that we were at an event. You were working at the event. You came up to me after I spoke, and you said, you thanked me for which is funny to me because I really didn't do anything. But you just thanked us for the work that USA Cares does with veterans. But struck up a conversation. I learned a little bit about you. And then I said, here's my card. If you would ever want to share your story on a podcast, let me know. And you actually responded, which was crazy because I didn't have your contact information. So.
And you also got the look of you're a lunatic when you handed me that card, because I was like, you're
no
nuts.
way.
Yeah.
No
I was like,
way.
she's not going to do this. But, and I don't do that very often, which is really funny. I don't really random people out say, hey, you should be on our podcast. So. But anyway,
very
you did.
Of who we
and
have on our podcast,
yeah. So anyway, fast forward the episode. I think you were very, very natural, very honest, very raw on that episode. And the response was tremendous, to the point where people are saying, that really helped me. Mm-hmm. And in conversations now, I find myself in conversations and I'll kind of reference, something you said or something, not even mentioning your name, but I'll think through a little bit. And the guilt piece is often what it comes back to, because in conversations I have with veterans, that comes up all the time. And even on podcast episodes, right, Alexis?
Oh, absolutely.
We talked to somebody who was all set to go. They joined the military. They were going to go to Iraq, and they wanted to go. They wanted to fight. They wanted to help, and they said, "No, we're going to reassign you to something else stateside." And he was so angry and bitter and frustrated and guilty and all this stuff because his friends were going to fight and he couldn't. And I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, why?
I think that when you join the service of any form, it's like, and say as you're signing in that small fine print, it says guilt will be associated and you will feel this for the rest of your life. Like, I think it's something that just comes with it, because I say when you sign, basically saying you're giving your life for the country, no matter, as far as all of that goes, when you sign that, it kind of, you have to have a different mindset mentality. Because you say you're prepared for basically the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
You're prepared to give your life right off the top. And that, having that pride to represent your country and things along those lines, that naturally is going to have guilt. Like that's just like, when you say you have kids, you feel guilty if you don't do something exactly right. You say, I wish I'd have done something better. I wish I'd have done this differently. And it's just to say it, each different aspect of guilt, it'll play differently with different, scenarios. Sure. But for the most part, the military, being in any branch of service, I can't, guarantee, but I'm sure I could find statistics and plenty of them that say guilt is probably one of the number one feelings that most people feel in the service, say whether they're in or out, and because there's something they wish they could have done differently. That
absolutely. And there's just so many different, if you're away from your family, you're a survivor, you didn't get to go, there's all of these different scenarios that are
you're
really
guilty because you don't see your kids grow up. You're guilty because you're not there for your spouse. They have to do everything on their own. You're guilty because your friends left and you didn't.
Yeah.
There's just that list is pretty much never ending. And, I came to terms with it. That guilt's never going to go away for me.
I had a really interesting conversation with a very high-ranking retired military person. And we talked for a long time. And he talked about, it's kind of weird, some of the things that it appears, and I'm not a veteran, so I'm a witness to all this, but the things that come and go, especially post-military, these feelings and these anxieties and these guilt things, because he was talking about being out of the military, being overseas for, on and off for like 6 or 7 years. And his son wrote him a note after all this and talked about what effect that had on him because his dad was gone so much. And he didn't know it. And so the guilt for him came well after service.
Yep.
And the impact that he realized it had. And he didn't realize how much, when he agreed to serve, his family agreed to serve too. And his son served too.
His family didn't agree. They were forced into it. So his kids didn't ask for,
because they weren't even born yet when
exactly.
he,
Now his wife made that active decision.
Right.
Yes, but the kids don't get that choice. They don't get that option.
Yeah.
And it's just something you just do and you deal with. And it's not easy at all.
Yeah.
And I can speak from a little bit close to some experience because my dad's a pilot. So he was gone a lot. My mother was a nurse. So again, they worked odd, crazy, weird hours. So I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. So there's, that concept of that did affect me. And it's conversations I've had to have, with them over the years past as I've aged and grown, and the more that I've, come to understand how it affected me and how those emotions are displayed today because of those experiences that I had growing up.
Yeah.
So, I can only imagine. My younger brothers, when I enlisted, they were 4 and 7, I think. Math again,
Sure.
still not my strong suit at all.
We won't know if you're wrong. So
right.
You can just go for it. So.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I missed quite a bit of their life. And they're in the primitive years.
Right.
And I'd get on the phone with them and they'd cry, "Sissy, come home. We miss you.
Yeah.
Why aren't you here?" And, that's hard enough as it is. I can't imagine being, a parent and being, gone,
rough.
like deployed
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
especially during those formative years, like especially
Yeah.
those families that have, husband and wife both in the service and they get deployed at the same time. Like that to me is mind boggling because they say that takes a strength
Yeah.
as a human being and a parent that is pretty much unparalleled.
And missing, I've got friends who they've missed the birth. They didn't even meet their second, third kids until they were 2,
Wow.
maybe even
Yep.
3
I can't
years
imagine
old
that.
because
Yeah.
they were deployed. And I'm like, gosh,
Mhm.
that's you pick that. Why would you want to do that?
And that's the thing I say is, as a veteran, I understand, I get where the all of our service members are coming from. For me, what I can't understand is the flip side of it. Like, but if you're not in the service or you haven't enlisted and you haven't experienced those things, it's very hard to comprehend because you're like, how could you not choose to want to be with your family, your kids, the people, that you love beyond reason? And it's really hard to pinpoint or put words to that feeling of once you are enlisted, what it does. And the conscious decisions that, sometimes and not all of them are conscious decisions. Sometimes they're unconscious where it's just like something about being in the service. There's such a camaraderie.
And herein lies the problem when people come out of the military and re-engage into society and
that stuff
into a
doesn't
civilian
exist in a
world.
civilian world.
Right.
And it's like two totally different people. So
I've been out, it'll be 10 years this November.
yeah.
And I've still been searching for that same feeling since I got out, I've been searching for that feeling that I had the whole time I was enlisted. It's close to impossible to find. And I mean, when I say that I've searched, I've tried and I've, found teams and stuff that are, close, but there's that, I don't know, it's something about,
Yeah.
it's a conniving aspect of it on the civilian side that you don't have in the service because I don't know, something about being in the service, everyone's all like-minded and they've all said and done and
You're all moving in the same direction and
Yes.
yeah.
And you've all decided that you're putting yourselves in a life or death situation.
Yeah.
And going to an office, nobody's gonna die. If your copies don't get made.
well, it depends on who you ask because there are
Maybe
some
Matt,
places.
yeah. But
That's
if you
another
look at it-
discussion for another day.
We can add that to the bloopers reel.
right? But if
The mailer doesn't go out. So
somebody's
I'm
head's
just
gonna
saying.
roll, but not really.
Not really.
Not really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not literally.
Yeah.
But
And I think that's part of the problem. One of the things that veterans struggle with coming back is because, we're willing to give our lives
Yeah.
and to see someone get so bad out of shape because an email wasn't sent.
Yeah.
It's
we talk
really
about
hard
that
to
a lot. That
comprehend
perspective.
we had a guest on.
What was Nick talking about?
Was it Nick? I can't remember. It was somebody else. He was in a class and they asked. I don't remember the full story, but he was like, in a class, well, I was getting shot at.
Right.
What's the worst thing that's happened to you? And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I missed a test. And you're like, well, I almost died.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
It's
Do you remember?
fine.
It was pink.
Was it
Was
pink paper clips?
paper
Yes,
clips.
thank you, Robert.
There you
That's
go.
what it was.
Yeah.
And then Nick Bush
Yes.
was talking about he was a combat medic,
Right.
and he was dealing with people who just like lost a foot or
Yeah.
lost a hand.
Yeah.
And he asked them what their pain level was, and they're like, it's like a 6 or 7. And then he came back and he worked in like a health clinic, and somebody came in with like a sprained ankle, and
And
they're
said it
like,
was like a
it's a
10.
9, it's a 9. And he put his clipboard on. He walked out the door and he never came back.
Look, I don't blame him.
I get it.
Look, my grandmother,
It's all
who's
relative, right?
in the
Yeah.
hospital right now, she, every time nurse comes in, gives her Tylenol. What's your pain level? 7. It's not. But I looked at the nurse and I was like, it's been a 7 every day for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's not changed. It's not gone up. It's not gone down. It's a 7. And then you look at someone who is, missing a limb or scars, bruising, multitude of other things. And you're like,
Yeah.
yeah. Like even to say I had a debilitating migraine after I had COVID last year. And like I was vomiting and it was bad. Went to the VA. What's your pain level? I was like, it's a 5. I'm like, but I'm I'm like, I'm not dying, but I sure feel like I'm dying.
Yeah.
Like, but there's no way on this planet I would ever give a 10 for something other than like a loss of
a body
multiple
part.
limbs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, then I maybe might give a 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm on the
That's-
opposite end of that spectrum. Like, that's me. I'm like, oh, I am.
Stub
I
to
might
toe.
be.
That's a 9. It's definitely a 9.
I have no tolerance for anything that hurts.
I do. I have a decently high tolerance of pain. I have a few piercings and tattoos, so obviously I'm, a tad on the masochistic side.
I got
so.
it. I have a tattoo. That was not bad. I had 2 babies. That was pretty bad. Like I was like every step of the way, I'm like, that's gonna hurt, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna hurt.
No.
I broke my arm once. That probably doesn't fair.
No.
Maybe.
So let's talk a little more about the aftermath of the last episode. So what were some things that came out? Because you and I have had a lot of conversations on the phone.
Yes.
And what were some things that came out of, maybe you were surprised by, that came out of you being on this podcast?
Well, just in general, one of the things I was surprised by was by how many people reached out to say something to me. That first off was just
Like how many? What are we talking about? Because I looked at your Facebook page and there were
there's a lot.
so many comments
and
on
I got
it.
a lot of text messages and a
Shares,
lot of
I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like,
But it became like a counseling session on Facebook.
yep, pretty much. That's exactly what it became.
Didn't
So
it?
I
It
got a
was
lot
it
of-
was people saying, I've been through that too. And I'm reading this, like my jaw's dropping. Like I can't believe how people are like they're associating with
And
it.
they're being supportive. They're like, gosh,
Oh,
I had
totally,
no idea,
totally
you know.
supportive.
Yeah. and-
Non-judgmental, not anything like that. It was like, thank you for being so brave.
Yeah, and I mean, if that felt amazing in and of itself because I was terrified that people are gonna judge me because
I don't think you slept the night before you went on.
I did, but it was medicated sleep. So yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't sleep much last night, and I talked to you a few days ago, and I was like,
Yeah.
I have a plan, an outline. I got back to the hospital last night to stay with my grandmother, and I was like, I'm winging it today.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how it feels. Like
Yeah.
the thought of coming up with a plan, it didn't sit right with
You
me.
get used to that. I do that every
so
time.
I was just like, we're just gonna wing it
Yeah.
today.
Authenticity is key here.
That's right.
But the day before when I got the pre-release,
Mm-hmm.
I sent it to a few of my family and my very few very very close friends, and some family members and that sort of thing. So I sent it off to my cousin's husband. I don't talk to him very often. Obviously it's just family get-togethers and things like that. And something just told me to send it to him. And so I did. And I got a response way later in the afternoon, evening from him that floored me. And I ended up in tears because of how much it affected me. And he opened up and said that on multiple occasions over the last, say 6 months to a year, I don't remember the exact timing, he had contemplated and had a plan for ending his own life. He had a wonderful wife. My cousin's pretty amazing. They have 4 beautiful children. And he's done well for himself. He also has guilt because he also kind of experienced the same thing. He was supposed to go deploy and he got hurt. And that, and he lost some really good friends as a result. And the response I got from him as he explained how recently he had these thoughts and when he had in those, it floored me. And he opened up and allowed me to hear his pain. And he knew that I was never going to judge him. I understand. I was pretty much there in the same mentality, but his response was so amazing because he said, I understand on so many levels what you said, and hearing that made me realize that I'm not alone. And that I was working an event that night too. And I was outside just in tears. I took the time I was like, I
need a minute.
And
I'm sure.
Yeah, we were doing a celebration of life as it was. So, they were playing some really, those really beautiful songs that just, get you in the heart and twist the knife. So that didn't help. And then I get this message, and I mean, it was a pretty long one, and I was just in tears, just tears flowing down my face, and just completely shocked and moved by his ability, by him trusting me enough to tell me something that deep.
Yeah.
And it's been pretty wonderful. But I mean,
awesome.
Even some of the other feedback, people I haven't talked to since I got out of the service, like some of my fellow soldiers. It was probably a couple weeks later. I shared whenever the video was posted of the podcast. I don't know
the YouTube video.
The YouTube video.
Okay.
I had shared it again because that was still unreal that I'm on YouTube. It's just crazy to me.
Check out our YouTube channel, USA Cares YouTube channel.
You will see me on there.
Twice now.
Twice now.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah,
twice
that's right.
now.
Hopefully you didn't wear the same thing both times.
No.
Okay,
nope.
good.
Oh, nope. I could say this is a Christmas. I was like, nope, this is a Christmas sweater.
Slight panic moment.
Jeans possibly,
Yeah.
but they're under the table. It's fine. But I mean, when I say that this message was it's like 2 inches long in a Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
And I mean, she started out with, "Thank you so much for sharing this again." She's like, "I saw this and I couldn't." She's like, "And I couldn't get the link to work and I wanted to listen to it so badly, but I couldn't." She's like, "Thank you for sharing this again." And just goes into telling me how helpful it was, how much it helped her, because I say, we were in the service at the same time, and she is out and she has a child now, but it's navigating those same feelings along with having that, having a child and the struggles and things that she's gone through and she's still going through. It meant, I was almost in tears. Got a theme here. Usually end up in tears at the end of this stuff because of, how powerful I know she felt by speaking that truth and saying, "Oh my God, I can relate to that."
Mm-hmm.
I have quite a few friends also that have no connection to the service whatsoever. And they messaged me.
Yeah, it goes deeper than that, doesn't it?
It does.
Because the dark thoughts don't just exist with veterans.
No.
Right.
No. They are pretty constant and just right now for everyone, because the last 2 years have been interesting,
right,
to say the least, to say a PG version of that.
Yeah.
Because it's
that's true.
Yeah, that's where my head goes. Is not really radio appropriate.
Well, we're not radio. Say whatever you want. But
I know, but that's more work for.
So one thing that you told me that stuck out to me, and I hope I'm okay to say this, to talk about this. We can edit it out if not. But you mentioned a story about your grandfather. I'm going to try not to make you cry here.
Okay.
But his reaction to it, because it was so moving to me, and I've thought about that ever since. And I don't know why, but it really struck me when you said that. So don't cry.
That's a tall order, Matt, because I know he's going to listen to this too. After the podcast aired and I sent it, shared it and sent it to everyone to listen to. Of course, after I listened to it, because I was like, I got to make sure I don't sound like a lunatic. Still kind of did, but it's okay. My grandparents listened to it. My grandfather, more specifically, on my mom's side. And I love my grandfather, but he's a tough old man, and he grew up in a time that emotions really weren't something that you talked about or felt or anything like that. I say it's a different time, different generations, and nothing at all that I fault or he's still my papa, and I love him beyond reason, and he's just the best. And he coined the saying, "Anything for Marla, anything at all," that they still say to this day. And I'm almost 34 years old.
That's awesome.
Yes. He messaged me, sent me a text message. He said, "I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were going through all of that. I wish I had been there more, but it's okay. I'm so proud of you." And I just like, and it was one of those, it was out of the blue. It didn't really like, I'd say it had been a few days since I had, shared and commented and all that good stuff. And because most people listen to it the first couple of days, and it just took me by surprise. And because they're not, he's not really a podcast listener.
Right.
It's just, he likes to watch his sports and, and I just.
But anything from Marla.
Anything from Marla. And that is, and anyone else in the family still knows that saying, and they say all that. Anything from Marla.
They slightly sarcastically, yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's no slight to it. It's exceptionally sarcastic.
Yeah.
And it just, that was powerful. And not only that, not just him, like my dad. Even my dad saying things, because again, different generation, they don't talk about feelings or emotions. And, him just saying how proud he was. And again, the common theme that I kept getting is, I'm so sorry I didn't know. And part of me is, well, I did my best to make sure you didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there's also that other side of, I'm like, I wasn't myself. Like I was just, inside I'm screaming for help. How could you not see? But I don't, and that's the thing is I don't fault them for it, because I've also been really, really, really good, is a loose term, at keeping all of my inner demons to myself.
Right.
Is
that because you didn't want to burden them with them?
Yes.
Or because you were ashamed?
But there's some shame in there, but majority of it's, I don't want to burden them.
But isn't it interesting the way that they responded?
Mm-hmm.
Because they were like, I wish I would have known. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to help with that. And you weren't allowing, I'm pointing my finger at you. You weren't allowing them to do that.
No.
That goes back to feeling like I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to be a bother to anybody. If it's okay.
I'm the oldest, grandchild, child, the oldest, like everything has always fallen to me. And because of that, there is this persona that I've built up in my mind over almost 34 years saying, well, I have to be together. If I fall apart, who's going to take care of it? Mm-hmm. None of my younger siblings are. I love them, but they got to enjoy being children. I never really got to be a child. After my parents got divorced at 10, that was all she wrote. I was at that point to say my whole being focused on to making sure my brother didn't feel the impact, that it was predominantly me that felt it. And, that can carry some trauma in and of itself. But I'm the one that takes care of everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's still the case. And it's something that I still hear on occasion, like, well, where's my Marla? Where'd she go? She's still here.
Yeah.
She just has to, she's going through some stuff, and in past, I've also had people tell me they don't know what to do when I'm not together. Mm-hmm. If I'm crying, it's like, they're like, duh.
They look to you to be that pillar of strength. And if you are falling apart, then it must be real bad. And
like when the kids see their dad cry for the first time, and they're like, whoa, wait a minute. My whole world is rocked. Yep. And it's
exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's the same concept. It's the exact same thing that, I've experienced to say, it also didn't help that I was looking for a me and other people. I'm never going to find a me for me. And that is a hard pill to swallow. Yeah. Because I'm like, but I mean, I want people to be happy, and I care about people, and I want to make sure they're taken care of. And I try to, anticipate their needs. And
that's when you start looking at other people and saying, maybe I have unrealistic expectations for them. And
I'm like, maybe I'm putting unrealistic expectations on myself and unrealistic, work that I shouldn't have to do. I don't have to anticipate everybody's needs.
Right.
You're right back to that self-compassion.
Exactly.
Self-compassion.
Yeah.
That's good.
And that's probably one of the biggest problems is I try to anticipate what everyone needs, and I'm just there and I do it. And then when I fall apart and I'm expecting someone to do the same and they don't, well, then I have this unrealistic anger that is pointed to no one, does nothing for it, does nothing. And I'm just like, why can't someone come pick me up? Someone come do this. Someone come clean my house, because, I can't, getting up off the couch sounds like, moving a mountain. And that's that was difficult, but setting the boundaries, I think, again, I'm pretty big about boundaries. Setting boundaries, that also made a significant impact. And I think that also affected people and how they viewed me. Because, yes, you know, I was actually talking to my grandmother, not the one in the hospital, my Nana. And she's like, I just don't feel like my Marla's there. I'm like, no, I'm still me. The things that, you know, make me, that I know are my core fundamental values are here. I said, what changed is I set boundaries. I stopped, you know, and I told her, I was like, you for my entire life have said, stop helping people to the detriment of yourself. So I did it. Well, that means that everyone's going to feel some of that pain and say, they're going to feel that.
I'm going to share the load a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say, which is hard because
Right.
for so long, so many years, I've just done it all.
Right.
Well, I decided no, I'm not doing it all.
Yeah.
And that's been one of those things. Like I've seen and experienced and heard a lot of strife around that. And it's difficult for me because I'm just like, all I'm doing is setting my boundaries. I have to protect myself, something I've never done before.
Right.
And I'd say, and then of course on that flip side, I'm like, and I'm being judged for it. I'm not,
Right.
I'm not being given the same grace to say, I need my space. I can't do this. I can't be this. I can't bend over backwards and drop everything and be there to do all of this for you. Because what happens is I stop doing anything for myself. And you know, you put on makeup, put a smile on, and it's all fine. But inside, you are quite literally withering away to nothing. And I can't stand that. And after starting therapy, becoming, you know, slowly realizing that this is what needs to happen.
Right.
It was huge. It's just...
Yeah. You have to just retrain yourself. You have to retrain the people around you to...
That is
just
so hard.
Yeah. Understand that, you know, you're not always going to be there.
Yeah, but at the same time, you're helping them.
Yeah.
Like they don't know it, but you're helping them.
Themselves.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
But, you know, there's also some pain. I mean, I've felt some pain associated with it because, you know, where I'm having to step back, I don't like that I have to. I hate it because I'm noticing that some of the relationships that I had were because I did everything. And so I'm feeling this loss of connection to people and family members because they don't.
Some of that's natural, though. I mean, some of that is natural and it's going to happen. It's in some ways it's healthy, and we always think it's weird to move away from somebody or move away from a relationship or move away from a friendship, but some of those aren't so good. So weird question, but where do you go from here?
That is a loaded question.
I know.
That is a big one.
Well, I like the questions that bring on.
I know, me too.
Conversational answers.
I complain about them, but secretly, I so love them.
Yeah, the open-ended questions that you never know where they're going to lead.
Nope, they're the best. Truthfully, the majority of it, it's one day at a time.
Yeah.
Continuing therapy is definitely like numero uno on my list.
So what about all the veterans who aren't doing that? I had this conversation with somebody recently, a similar thing. There's so many resources, but so many people don't take advantage.
They don't. And
like you.
Right. Which I'm hoping that maybe
non-judgmental glance. Yeah.
I'm hoping that means saying something now aloud, you know, because I did pretend like it was all fine and dandy forever and ever. But I mean, I have a good friend say that I work with, a few weeks, like say over Christmas break, you know, I'm very in tune with people and their feelings and emotions. I have a lot of those, you know, empath qualities. And I've also been studying psychology for years. So, you know, I watched for tells. Well, we were working an event together, and we're close to done. And I look and I'm like, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, why? I was like, no, for real. Like, what's going on? And he looked at me and he like, and I mean, I think he looked at me like I had 7 heads. Like, how do you,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? I was like, something's not right. I was like, something about you is different. You just, you know, and I hadn't known him for super, super long at this point. And I was like, I don't know, looking at you, seeing the way that you're walking and something about the way that, you know, your stature has changed. Your face is different. Like I say, it looks like you're more, you know, dejected. And I just, you know, he was like, how can you tell? And I kind of told him, I was like, but you understand. I was like, this is natural. Like I can see those things in people that some can't always. And so, you know, through the whole time, I'm, you know, checking up on him and I'm like, you got to make sure you're okay. He doesn't want to see a therapist.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. Well, I'm like, no one can force you to go to therapy. You just can't. I mean, in theory, I guess somebody could, but it doesn't do us. It does nobody any good to force someone to do something they don't want to do. I said, you don't have to go to therapy, but find someone. You got to find somebody to talk to.
Right.
I said, whether it's a stranger, my ear is always open. I was like, I'm never going to judge. I'm never going to say anything. I said, I can offer different perspectives, essentially because the more we got to know each other, the more we realized, I was like, we are mirror souls. We have experienced a lot of the same things. We think the same way. And because, you know, saying he's quite a few years younger than I am. He's still a baby. I'm like, some of these things I can tell you is because I have experienced and learned from them. So if I can give you something, you know, like you're telling me this is what you're going through, if I can give you something to help you navigate that, I'm all for it. You know, like, but don't do this alone. I said, because you can't tell me that those dark thoughts aren't there. I see them. Regardless of what you try to say or what face you try to put on, I see them. I know they're there. You know why? Because mine creep up still. Even having gotten better, they never go away. Not when you've had, like when those conversations happen in your head, they don't stop.
And I really think everybody has them, whether we like to admit it or not. I think everybody has them, and we either learn to deal with them or we don't.
Yep.
And you either choose to give in to them or you choose to do something about it and fight back. And, you know, one of the things that I hope comes from this conversation both times is that I'm going to fight back.
Yes.
And I'm going to learn a way to adapt.
Yes.
And it's just like somebody who comes back from the trauma of war. You're never going to get over it.
Never.
You're never going to just move on. You find a way to live with it.
Yes.
And you find a way there's pain. Okay, how am I going to deal with the pain?
Yes.
I'm going to deal with it in a positive manner, or I'm going to dive into a bottle, or I'm going to crack open a thing of pills. You know, how you deal with it makes all the difference. And if we're just honest with ourselves and realize we all go through a lot of the same things, maybe I don't know it from a veteran's perspective, but there's still some there. And you're not strange. You're not strange or awkward or weird for going through it. Yep. It's all very normal.
Everybody has that inner monologue.
Yeah.
That's always going. And I'm like, shut up. But it is, you do have that in your self-talk and then, you know, learning ways and learning tools to help.
So
all those thoughts.
And just because somebody markets themselves perfectly on Facebook doesn't mean that they've got it all together.
Yeah. Not true.
Yeah. No, I try to put the imperfections out there because I'm like, there is nothing about my life that is all together. It is an absolute disaster on a good day.
Right.
But but in that disaster, there's so much beauty to be found.
Yes.
And so much love. And
you learn to find the
joy.
little nuggets that carry you through.
Look, there's some days I'm like, I woke up today.
That's a win.
That's my win. Nothing else is going to work. That's my win today. I woke up.
That's great. Yeah.
But I mean, you know, changing that kind of conversation helps because, you know, somebody once explained to me, you know, your mental health is say in, you know, therapy and say you've got a garden shed. Well, when you start working, doing the work and having somebody, you know, all you're doing is adding tools to your arsenal. Mm-hmm. So you can't ever just make it stop, but you have and you can gain tools to help you cope and to combat it and to help navigate. Okay, well, yeah, I think this, but that's really not the truth. this is what needs, finding that middle ground. That I still, there ain't nothing perfect about me. It's, my grandmother's been in the hospital for almost 3 weeks now. And she came off of isolation last Monday, and I have basically spent every moment that I was not at work at the hospital. And it's not easy, and I'm becoming her caregiver.
Yeah.
That's bringing about a whole new set of things that I've never experienced or done before.
But you'll look back on it and say, I'm so glad I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because her and my mom, my nana, I flopped back and forth between their house because, again, my dad, pilot, mom's nurse. I flopped. So the person that I became, I do owe quite a bit to them.
Yeah.
Because without them, I'm like, I tell my family, I'm like, without my mom and nana, I'm like, I don't know if I'd really be worth a damn. Because they were strong women in a time that women weren't really supposed to be strong.
Yep.
So they were really powerful role models that I got to have.
Awesome.
And, she cared for me. So it's my turn to care for her.
One thing I hope comes out of this, the last one, which I know came out of the last episode, and what comes out of this one is that we can all reach out to the people around us and check on them. Mm-hmm. We talk about that, Alexis, when you talk about, I think it was Nick Black who said, you can send us money because he heads up Stop Soldier Suicide. He said, you can send us money and we appreciate it, but I would rather you call 5 people today and check on them.
Yep. Mm-hmm. We've had
and just let them know you love them and you're thinking about them.
I know I said this before, and I'll say it again and again until I'm blue in the face. My ear is always open. I don't care if I know you. I don't care if I've never met you. My ear is always open. Yep. There is not a judgmental bone in my body. And all I can offer is I can offer an ear. I can offer advice.
Yeah.
And I've told all my friends, and they call and I'm like, what do you need? Do you need a friend? Do you need advice? Just let me know which hat I got to put on, and we'll go from there.
Sometimes that's all people need.
That's all they need.
They just need to be heard.
That's it.
And that's huge because that's feeling validated and heard are some of those are pretty amazing feelings.
Yep. And it's a human need. Mm-hmm. It truly is.
And not feeling alone.
Right. Absolutely.
Because all of the negative self-conversations make you feel alone.
Yep. So if you're listening and you're in that situation and you need somebody to talk to, you need somebody, just reach out to the people around you that you trust. Reach out to those people who, won't judge you for what you say. Just know that the feelings you're feeling, even though you feel like you're the only one who feels that way, I guarantee there are other people who feel the same way. So
you're not alone.
You're not alone in that, and there's no shame in it. And fortunately, our society is taking a different look at mental health.
Thank
God. It's become more normal to not be normal.
Yes.
And which is a wonderful thing. So
and if you don't have anyone, if you don't have family that you can trust or rely on, you can find me on not all socials because I'm not a social media.
Apparently not Twitter.
No, not Twitter. I'm not a Twitter. Birds tweet. Not
not Marla.
But all you reach out to me. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and I am on LinkedIn out there.
There you go.
Just don't look at it all the time. But, I don't care if I know you. I will always be an ear.
And if you're a veteran, utilize the services through the VA. There's so many things available there. There's so much great counseling. And when you say that you need to talk to somebody, you're concerned about your mental health, that's a 911. That's they're going to help you right now, and it's not something that they look past like it's no big deal. No, that's like saying you're having a heart attack. They're going to jump all over that, and so utilize that. A lot of good people doing a lot of great work. So, Marla, anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
Thank you again for letting me to do this again. Say it's just as fun this time.
Well, you're just becoming a podcast regular at this point.
I know,
so
I left my nervous tick bracelet at home, so no one's gonna see me rotating that and playing with that in my hand.
Well, I had a nervous tick. Let's talk about this for a minute. I had a nervous tick thing, and Robert, I see you in there. You took it away from me. My clicky pen. So if you notice on past episodes, I sit here and I'm thinking, and I click my pen, and Yeah.
right
So
there.
now they gave me this other pen that doesn't do anything.
I took it away from you
But yeah.
because he threatened it.
When I sit at my desk, I've got a little stress ball, and I'll squeeze that.
So I reached in my purse and found
You
you
guys
a
are
suitable
taking away all my
replacement.
stuff,
It's a pretty
but-
good pen.
and
Yeah,
you
it's-
didn't really like mess with it. It
No.
was just there.
No, it's
You did really good.
well. Thanks.
I think you only lost one train of thought. So I mean, that's
I'm a youngest child that you took care of, so there you go.
there
See?
you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a proven fact though. Sometimes those tactical things help get your brain
That's
go.
right.
Yep.
That's right.
That's why we do them.
Maybe I'll get a fidget spinner. We'll
that-
see.
I also have
Thinking
ADHD, so
punny.
there's that.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
So
So I hope this was helpful to everybody who listened. This is something that we wanted this podcast to be. We wanted this to be helpful, give people hope, give people encouragement. This is, I hope, the direction that we're moving, and I'm so encouraged to hear the feedback that you're receiving from people. So
I
check
can't
out Marla Kiser on Facebook. Send her a little message. Tell her, let
Please.
her know what you thought about this, about her being on and being vulnerable and being open and sharing her story, because her story is unique, but it's not uncommon. And so we hope that you'll be so brave as well. If you want to learn more about USA Cares, check out usacares.org. Lots of services available to veterans who are in need. Lots of ways that we can help. If you want to learn more about some of the great companies that are helping us, also check out our website. The companies like Hardee's and Carl's Jr. that we talked about, GE Appliances, Cruise Customs, Renewal by Anderson, and a recent one called Sunt Construction, who has really stepped up to help us out as well. So big thank you to Sunt. This is great. I like the part 2 here.
Yeah.
I thought it went well.
Me too.
So Marla,
really fun.
thank you.
yeah.
Thanks for being on.
Thanks for asking me to be on again.
Maybe we'll get you back on in a non-guest role. Maybe you'll just be a participant sometime, and you can start grilling other people.
Yes.
You like that?
Yes,
We'll put
because
them
that
under the
means I
hot
get to do
lights.
research. And
Oh
during
my
the
gosh.
pre-conversation, I know, I'm weird. I enjoy. This is why I'm getting my master's, and I plan to go to my PhD.
So
I
maybe
have to
this
do
is a
research.
horrible idea.
It's a great
Maybe
idea.
this is Alexis and
Do you see
Marla now
Alexis
ganging
lighting up right
up.
now?
Oh my gosh.
I think it's a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
I would love to. You don't
She
have
just
to
wants
twist
to
my
get
arm.
out from behind the microphone. That's the problem.
And that's okay.
No, it isn't.
It is.
Sure it
No,
is.
it's her job.
It is great. I coordinate. I don't participate
Oh
in
my
that.
gosh.
Look,
All right.
she can coordinate.
We had such a good episode going, and it's spiraling out of control now.
You mentioned it.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I did.
It's all you.
But yeah, no, I would absolutely love that. I think it would be fun. You know,
All right,
just
we'll get you back on here. So, all right. Well, if you are, if this was the first podcast you listened to with USA Cares, I hope you'll hit that subscribe button. Make this part of your weekly routine. We are honored that you chose to join us, and we would love to have you with us every single week. So, from me, from Alexis, from Marla, thank you for listening, and we look forward to being with you next week.